Yes, indeed. Dr. Vincent Olatunji joins us next. He is the National Commissioner and CEO of Nigeria Data Protection Commission. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
I know that in the course of your work, you did launch this, what you describe as the Strategic Data Protection Roadmap, the action plan, which is supposed to help us all ensure our data. I mean, everybody wants to know that their data is safe, cannot be hacked, properly regulated, and then that they could do more with all of that. So what is the focus of this action plan?
Thank you very much. I think what is really important for us to note as a background is the fact that now we have a law on data protection and privacy in Nigeria.
Okay.
It's right not to just have the law and start implementing without a vision. We must create a vision, share the vision with our team and all our stakeholders, and for us to probably map out our plans of action, knowing what to do, how to do, who does what, where do we even get resources from. These are the things that were put together in the action plan. Because in Nigeria, it's just an emerging ecosystem. And for instance, the area of awareness alone, what kind of plans do we even have to create awareness for people to know what we are doing? On the part of data subjects and on the part of data controllers. These are things that were put together to have a plan for between 2023, when we now have the law, to 2027, a 5-year strategic plan on data protection in Nigeria. That's what we have.
Tell us about, because one key area is the part where customers try to interface with these agencies. Time and again, they have a challenge, they call, they don't get the response, they don't get the kind of answers they want from different agencies, including government agencies. Now for this, what should they expect? What have you put in place for this?
In terms of not getting prompt responses from government organizations, I would say is an exception.
I was waiting for that word.
But in terms of various opportunities to contact us, you can write directly to us, you can visit our office, you can call us, you can reach us on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and so on. Now,
but do you have physical offices in different parts of the country?
No, for now in Abuja.
Oh, okay.
But part of what we have in the law, and of course, the action plan is for us to have regional offices, and eventually we get to states and even local governments, because we are looking at all Nigerians wherever they reside in the country.
So what's your response time to any inquiry?
Promptly. It's prompt, immediately. Because we have our own help desk. If something or a request comes in, it goes to the line officer who takes up immediately and will give you a response.
So is that going to be the same when the database increases of people who are going to try to reach out to you?
If it increases, we increase our manpower, increase our strategies, we improve our strategies, and increase the kind of technology that we deploy to accommodate the requests that will come. Yes, we have already taken that. For instance, in Finland, a country of 6 million people, they get requests over 11,000 every year. And now, just suppose that with a country of 200 million people. You know what that means? UK, a country of about 67 million people, what they get from the annual returns is about 40 million pounds every year. You cannot just suppose that with a country of 200 million people. That means we should be prepared, and that's part of why we will have the action. Maybe I'll even share what we have in the action plan with you for us to have a proper perspective of what we want to. Now, we actually started work on the action plan immediately after we were established as a bureau. That was March last year. We were established February 4th last year, and we started work on the action plan. March later, we inaugurated a committee made up of stakeholders from different sectors for us to have diverse perspectives to whatever we want to put in the action plan. And we started work looking at the regulation that we had then, and looking at the ecosystem in Nigeria, what we had put in place, and we were still underneath that then. So our focus was on the repair and the regulatory authority then. Then when we had the law early this year, we actually started working with stakeholders on the law. Immediately we were set up. So we were working on the plan, and we were working on the law. But eventually the Night Assembly passed the law, and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCF, gradually accepted the law on the 12th of June this year. And we now presented the draft of the document of the action plan to stakeholders on the 14th of June this year. So 2 days before the law was signed, the document was ready for presentation. stakeholders. Now, at that stakeholders forum, we all agree that now we have this law. What would be the essence of referring to NDPR, for instance, which was the regulation that we're using there? We need to update what we have in this document to reflect the law, and more importantly, to reflect the new commission that was created with the law. We started doing that. Then came the strategic direction of Mr. President, the renewal agenda, the 8-point agenda of Mr. President, looking at food security, job creation, inclusivity, security, rule of law, and all these things. Then came the blueprint of the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, Innovation and Digital Economy, which is our parent ministry. We also need to incorporate the 5 pillars of the ministry, talking of policy, talking of knowledge, talking of infrastructure, talking of entrepreneurship and innovation, and talking of trade. All this is clearly aligned with the provisions of the law, that is Nigerian Devolution Law. Now, we developed a 5-pillar agenda. One is governance. That is what kind of governance structure do we even have for data protection in Nigeria? We talk of the law, the legislative instruments that we have to oversee the data protection ecosystem in Nigeria, the law that we have. How do we actually want to ensure that we enforce this law in the country? 2, on the part of data controllers and processors, what kind of governance structure do they have? You speak in terms of their privacy policy, their privacy statement, their data processing activities, what kind of laws or governance structure they have to policies have they put in place to ensure that they get this properly. We come to the issue of awareness and human capital, which is really important, and awareness that you are talking about. How do you really drive this budget down to the remotest part of Nigeria? For instance, over 65 million Nigerians live, 65% of Nigeria live in rural communities. They don't even speak English, but all of them, they have phones. You can send money to them, receive alert. If that alert is compromised, people can start taking their money from their bank. Or if their account number or their PIN is compromised. So how do you really interpret this law to them? And that comes to real awareness. On the part of the data subject themselves, how do they even know their rights? Their rights under this law. Data controllers, data processors, how do they know the obligation? The duty of care that they owe us under this law. This is the area of awareness. Then you come to human capital development. Globally, I said it before when I came here, that this is an emerging sector. And skills in this sector is very scarce all over the world. People are looking for data protection experts. So how do you now situate that in a situation in Nigeria? For instance, the law says every data controller and processor in Nigeria must have a data protection officer. Now, do we have the people in Nigeria that will take care of about 500,000 data controllers that we have identified in the country? We don't have we have the people, but we don't have the skill.
So you're going to train them?
Yeah, we are training. That's part of what we are putting in place. In fact, in the action plan, our target is to have a pool of 50,000 data protection experts every year for the next 5 years. I will now expect private sector organizations, all the stakeholders, to be able to put in their own effort and train over 250,000. So eventually, we'll be having over 500,000 jobs that will be created from this ecosystem within 5 years. And how do we even achieve that? For instance, some of us who are experts now, who have our certifications, we have foreign certifications. I have a PCB certification that I did with over $1,000. And I maintain my certificate with $100 every year. How many people can afford that in Nigeria? And that is why we are putting in place strategies to have a national certification body. But in terms of standard, in terms of quality of education, in terms of curriculum, it has to be at par or even better than anyone in any part of the world.
Sorry to interrupt you because you have to let us ask questions. I'm sure that the governors will certainly be interested in some of the things that you're saying, and I want to imagine that the Nigerian Governors Forum should be reaching out to you to see how it is that they can partner with you, especially since you're talking about jobs and the fact that the opportunities in your sector as a result of the law that has now been signed and the action plan which you have on the template. But I want to look at the fact that you're looking at protection. I mean, that is essentially what you are looking at. There are people who will be hiding under the issue of protection to also commit devious...
Exploit people.
Yeah, to exploit people. And then they know that, oh, we are protected under the law. They will explore loopholes in the law. I think also recently somebody was citing an example of people who were hiding their numbers and calling people incessantly. And, demanding monies from those people to stop calling them incessantly. So I do not know if you're partnering with the Nigeria Communications Commission. Whilst I want to imagine that you're a standalone agency. I see many aspects for collaboration, and whether you'll be having officers in their own offices who can, collaborate on certain issues that will, since you're going to be working in the communication sector anyway, is this something you're exploring?
Thank you very much. The fifth pillar of our strategy roadmap is collaboration and cooperation. Collaboration with stakeholders in Nigeria from different sectors, and cooperation with international organizations, development partners, and so on. Now, just last week, we had an implementation workshop with members of the ICT and Cybersecurity Committee, National Assembly. Part of the major outcomes of this workshop was for us to partner with stakeholders in different sectors. We were already doing this before. For instance, we were working with CBN in the area of privacy when it comes to the issue of data protection in the financial sector. We are working with NCC in the area of telecoms. Just, I think about 3 days ago, the DG of Small and Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria, Sweden. He was with us, and part of what we agreed is to look at the SMEs. How do we properly entrench this law in whatever they are doing? Because they have about 40 billion SMEs in their database. How do we ensure that they comply? Now, we already have existing MOUs with a lot of organizations. For instance, we have with FCCPC, Federal Consumer Commission. We are drafting with Lottery Commission. It may interest that about 60 million Nigerians are into one gaming.
60 million?
60 million Nigerians are into one form of gaming or the other.
Don't say.
And we are working with Lottery Commission to ensure that we have that. So NCC, CBN, Nigeria Health Insurance Authority, these are all organizations that we are already working with. A lot. Partnership is a key pillar of our strategy roadmap. So we are working with...
Is that what you guys have been doing?
60 million. All these Babas by the corner.
Yes.
60 million Nigerians.
Oh yes, a lot of Nigerians are involved in gaming and betting.
Yeah.
But I want to also ask you, are you a self-funding agency?
Yes. The fourth pillar of our strategy roadmap is funding and sustainability. We discovered that globally, most DPAs, data protection authorities, funding has been a major challenge because most of these policymakers don't even understand what we're talking about when we talk of privacy until you now really explain it so much to them. The risk and implications of breaches. Then now, so this is what we can go through. And that's why we actually started out with the National Assembly. Yes, Section 19 of our law speaks to how we'll be funded. For instance, we are supposed to have a take-off grant under NIDA and NCC and the ministry. They will do that for 2 years. Whatever we have as our take-off grant, NIDA will provide 40%, NCC 40%, federal government 20%. After 2 years, we don't have any cost to go to government because we have put in place ways and means of funding ourselves. One, registration of data controller and processor alone, they have to pay a token. For instance, in the UK, they make £40 million from registration of data controller and processors alone every year. And 95% of their funding comes from that money. That is a country of 67 million people. Now you are talking of a country of over 200 million people. You can imagine what we'll get when we start registering data controller and processor. And another thing that we'll put there is the fact that every data controller or processor of major importance must file their compliance return with us, just like the CAC annual return. And when you do that, you pay a token. Something that will not be too burdensome on the data controllers.
So you'll be just fine.
Yes, I will be making money for government.
Okay.
All right, let's go to Lagos.
Yes, thank you, Chamberlain. Interesting conversation. I'd just like to stretch Malkwe's earlier question a bit further, sir. We've been talking about data harmonization over and over again in the country, particularly for the purpose of security, i.e. NIN, BVN, even other details. Will there be any conflict of interest, particularly where we have cases of people perpetrating crime and they're particularly with, bank accounts? Earlier on, we started the conversation with people using POS, to rob people of their funds. So would there be any conflict of interest, particularly when these details are required to track those who have perpetrated this crime? Is there any conflict of interest in the law, this new law, that would prevent this information to be provided? I wonder if you catch my drift.
Yeah, for any data controller or processor to collect, process, store, or share your data, there are some bases for doing that maybe vital interest, that is the interest of the data subjects. For instance, somebody who is involved in an accident and they need to do blood transfusion, for instance, and nobody is there to give consent. If that is an emergency situation and if it is a matter of life and death, and in this case, they need to do blood transfusion for this fellow, yes, that could be done based on vital interest. Or a child, an underage child that is not able to determine or give consent in whatever, for instance, in that situation too, the guardian or the parent will be able to do that, but that is on vital interest. On contractual basis, for instance, on employment, if you employ people, you are going into a contract. So these are basic for processing data. Then, for public interest, for instance, law enforcement agents, this speaks to what you are trying to talk about. If they are trying to do some investigations about a case, definitely they can process the data based on that. But what we are putting in the law, there should be some guidance for them. Who collects this data? Who has access to it? What kind of transfer method that you using? For instance, if you are sharing data with a third party, whatever encryption method, I feel included in whatever you are sharing. So yes, there are guidance for all these things, or even if it's for obligatory purpose, in the course of carrying out justice, this is clearly stated in the law. So for the purpose of investigation, which I guess your question is trying to address, yes, there are guidance they need to follow, and there's no conflict at all.
Well, the question will then be, how far can you go in ensuring these rights are really protected? I was at an event by Sarah recently. Incidentally, your agency was represented, and it was about data rights, how they're meant to be fundamental rights as well. The fact that you're online doesn't change the fact that you have fundamental rights online. And one of the startling figures that came out is that 40% of Nigerian journalists have experienced surveillance, while 50% have been targeted and arrested by state actors using their phone records and communications as justification for their actions. So clearly we have seen government agencies, state actors crossing that line time and again with no recourse to the process, the procedures which you talk about. And I think that's where the conflict of interest is coming from. The social media bill has been introduced. Are you a part of that process? Are you ensuring that within that lawmaking process, the data rights of Nigerians are upheld? And you can tell us really, can you tell government and say, no, you cannot go beyond this line? Is that something you're able to do, even though you're a government agency?
Yes, the situation you painted, I'm sure, happened before this law came into existence. This law was signed in June this year, and a lot of government organizations have approached us. We have visited so many to explain the provisions of this law to them about the right of all Nigerians who are data subjects, no matter where they work. And for government organization, for regulators, yes, they come up with any regulation that is contrary to this law. Definitely will come up boldly to let them know. This is the only law about data protection and privacy in Nigeria. I'll give an example. Earlier this year, there was a regulation issued by CBN for the collection of social media handles of bank customers for their KYC. And whereas we have collected their name, their telephone numbers, their house addresses, all those information that we need to do KYC, we came up to tell them, telling bank customers to submit their KYC for the purpose of, well, to submit their social media handles for the purpose of KYC, will bring on the burden on the data subjects and on the banks. For instance, if I choose not to be on any social media platform, now I want to open a bank account, you're not compelling me to submit my social media handles. That means I must go and open social media accounts. That's on the burden. You will be able to get services from banks, from telcos, from government institutions without putting any extra burden on you. So we told them this was not proper. Yes, in some cases, for instance, I will cite the case of Hush Puppy and Woodbury. Their social media lifestyles gave them out, and that was how they were investigated. So if you must tell them, if you tell them to not bring social media handles for KYC for backup, there must be some exceptions. It should be a matter of choice. Yes, I want to do it because of A, B, C, D reasons, or I don't want to do it. And we have been working with CBN. We actually set up a joint committee to review the regulation. So that is the extent to which you can go. And I'm not sure there is any government organization that will come up with any law that will be contrary to what the National Assembly has sent it by Mr. President. What we need to do is to work with them. There was a case reported to us about 2 weeks ago about CAC, the way Amara, they export data of company stakeholders, and we are reaching to them. All we need to do is to sit down. The thing is, you are talking about people, you are talking about Nigerians, and when you are implementing law, you don't have to be afraid. You say the truth. And if governments know that you are doing what is right, saying the truth, safeguarding the rights and freedom of Nigerians, I don't really see any reason where there will be conflict. So there is no conflict at all. We are doing our work, and we are working with all government organizations.
Is there anything wrong? Because, I mean, in some of the events where people attend, you just bring out several books, you put your name, your phone number, your email, your address. You go to companies, you come in, you sign in your name, your email address, all those details. Is there anything wrong? Are they in danger of anything if they keep going that way?
Big danger, big danger.
How?
As part of the awareness work. For instance, I'll give you an example. You go to a bank, I think I mentioned this the last time I came here. After your transaction, maybe you want to collect your ATM or your bank draft, they give you this long notebook where you have to fill in your name, your telephone number, your address, and everything. Anybody can just go there and snap and start calling you. That you have an account with this bank, we wanted to do this for you, and you need to put in some code and stuff like that. That is against the law. And that's part of awareness we are creating. We've invited several banks on this, telling them this is not right, and we take their remediation. Because most of these things we don't announce.
Even security, not just agencies, but institutions in general that have security people at the gates. You know, they'll have a big log book. They want to have a visitor's book. What's your name? What's your email address? They want your phone number. And so is it really safe for people to be entering their phone numbers into those things?
Not at all. No. For instance, what we do in our office now, the moment you get to our reception, what you do is like there's a QR code that is come with your phone. It brings up what you need to fill your name while you are there and stuff like that. The moment you enter, you submit. It goes to my PA or our secretary. We have a team in charge of that, and they direct the request to whoever you are supposed to see. Nobody sees you. Nobody knows who you want to see or your information or your data. And that's what we are trying to introduce in other MDs. For those who are not that high in terms of deployment of technologies, you still want to use a logbook. There are some now that are privacy compliant. That when you fill, just like you have a carbon paper underneath, whoever comes after you doesn't see your name. It's only the company or the organization that visited after the end of the day that will see what you have done. So these are some of the measures we are trying to put in place.
Okay.
We're introducing to
so if people go to places where they don't have these two measures and they are aware of this law, can they say, no, I'm seeing a lot of people I can't put my details here. Absolutely. Do they have a right to refuse?
Yes, that is all right. That is all right. You can say, no, I don't want to put it there. Unless you now put a caveat that the private statement, we are collecting your information for the purpose of this meeting or for this conference, and we are not going to use for any other purpose. Do you agree or not? But even at that, they don't have to expose your own personal information they have given to them. So it's all right.
All right. It's important that people know these things and not...
No, you're right.
Oh, yeah. We used to have that program. Well, now it's Law Weekly anyway. All right, Dr. Vincent Olatunji, National Commissioner and CEO, Nigeria Data Protection Commission. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right.